A Course in Miracles. Lesson 38. There is nothing my holiness cannot do. Your holiness reverses all the laws of the world. It is beyond every restriction of time, space, distance, and limits of any kind. Your holiness is totally unlimited in its power because it establishes you as a son of God, at one with the mind of his Creator. Through your holiness, the power of God is made manifest. Through your holiness, the power of God is made available. There is nothing the power of God cannot do. Your holiness can remove all pain. Your holiness can end all sorrow. Your holiness can solve all problems. It can do so in connection with yourself and with anyone else. It is equal in its power to help anyone because it is equal in its power to save anyone. If you are holy, so is everything God created. You are holy because all things He created are holy. All things He created are holy because you are. In today's exercises, the power of your holiness is applied to all problems, difficulties, or suffering in any form that comes to mind, in yourself or in someone else. No distinctions are made because there are no distinctions. In the longer practice periods, repeat the idea for today. Close the eyes. Search the mind for any sense of loss or unhappiness of any kind as it is seen. Make as little distinction as possible between a situation that seems difficult for yourself and one that seems difficult for someone else. Identify the situation specifically and also the name of the person concerned. Use this form in applying the idea for today. In the situation involving blank, in which I see myself, there is nothing that my holiness cannot do. In the situation involving blank, in which blank sees himself, there is nothing my holiness cannot do. From time to time, this procedure may be varied, and relevant thoughts may be added. Thoughts such as these may be included. There is nothing my holiness cannot do, because the power of God lies in it. Introduce whatever variations appeal, but keep the exercises focused on the theme, there is nothing my holiness cannot do. The purpose of these exercises is to begin to instill a sense of dominion over all things because of what you are. In the frequent shorter applications, apply the idea in its original form unless a specific problem concerning yourself or someone else arises. When such a problem comes to mind, use the more specific form in applying the idea to it. Lesson 38. There is nothing my holiness cannot do. Lesson 38 is not describing a better personality in a better world. Lesson 38 is describing a different order of reality altogether. Holiness is not a moral achievement. Holiness is the recognition of what cannot be modified, threatened, negotiated, or delayed. The phrase reverses all the laws of the world is not poetic exaggeration. It is a statement about jurisdiction. The world's laws are the rules of a closed system. Holiness is not inside that system trying to win. Holiness is what the system was made to forget. Imagine a vast city built under a glass dome. Inside the dome, everything runs on strict regulations. Permits decide who can enter. Clocks decide who is late. Distances decide what is reachable. Walls decide what is possible. The citizens call these laws. Then one day, a child is found walking through locked gates without keys, not breaking anything, not climbing anything, not bribing anyone, just walking through. Not because the child is special, but because the locks were never real to begin with. Guards panic and call it a violation. Engineers demand an explanation. Judges reach for penalties. But the dome was never secured by locks. It was secured by belief. And the child is not above the law. The child is outside the jurisdiction of the dome entirely. That is what holiness does. Not by overpowering the world's rules, by revealing that the rules were never laws, only agreements made in fear. Time, space, distance, and limits are the dome's native language. Holiness does not speak it. A better metaphor than superpower is source. A lamp does not negotiate with shadows. A lamp does not argue with darkness about its right to exist. A lamp does not travel to each corner to push darkness away. The lamp simply turns on, and the laws of darkness are reversed without a fight. Pain is a law inside the dome. Sorrow is a law inside the dome. Problems are laws inside the dome. They look permanent because everything inside the dome is measured by the dome. Holiness does not fix those laws one at a time. Holiness introduces a different light, and what looked like law is exposed as a temporary effect of dimness. There is a reason the lesson says the power of God is made manifest through holiness. A window does not create sunlight. A window does not improve sunlight. A window does not deserve sunlight. A window simply stops blocking. What was always present becomes visible. Here is the story form of the practice. Picture a museum with thousands of rooms. Every room holds one exhibit labeled loss, betrayal, sickness, money, regret, loneliness, future, past. Visitors walk room to room, reacting to each exhibit as if it has authority. They try to rearrange the displays. They argue with the labels. They blame the curator. They attempt to buy new exhibits to cancel the old ones. But the real shock is this. The museum was never built to display truth. It was built to train attention. Whatever is stared at long enough begins to feel like law. And the tour guide called ego keeps whispering, "This room is different. This exhibit is worse. This one is personal. This one will never change." Holiness is the moment the visitor stops being hypnotized by the exhibits. Holiness is not the demolition of the museum by force. Holiness is the recognition that the visitor is not the exhibit. Holiness is the recognition that the labels are not facts. Holiness is the recognition that the tour guide is not an authority. That is why the lesson insists there are no distinctions. Distinctions are the museum's business model. Distinctions keep the visitor moving. Distinctions keep the visitor seeking a better room. Distinctions keep the visitor believing that some problems are solvable and others are sacred curses. Holiness ends the marketplace. A fresh metaphor for the no distinctions line is this. Consider a single ocean wearing 1,000 wave shapes. One wave calls itself grief. Another wave calls itself debt. Another wave calls itself abandonment. But the substance is identical. Salt water does not become more salt water because a wave is tall. And salt water does not become less salt water because a wave is small. The shapes vary. The substance does not. The practice periods are training in substance recognition. Closing the eyes is not spiritual theater. Closing the eyes is a refusal to let the dome dictate reality. Searching the mind is not self-attack. Searching the mind is the gentle inventory of where belief in the dome still hides. Naming the situation and the person is not making it real. Naming is simply pointing the flashlight at the corner where the mind kept pretending nothing was stored. Then comes the line that is meant to be spoken like a verdict. In the situation involving blank, in which I see myself, there is nothing that my holiness cannot do. That sentence is not a spell. It is a relocation of cause. It announces that the situation is not the author. It announces that the mind is not trapped inside effects. It announces that the dome cannot legislate over what God created. The second form is even more radical. In the situation involving blank, in which blank sees himself, there is nothing my holiness cannot do. This is not helping another person the world's way. This is refusing to make separate domes. This is refusing the private law that says, different mind, different fate. Holiness does not have a personal supply. Holiness is not rationed by bodies. Holiness is the shared condition of what God created. That is why save anyone is not dramatic language. Saving is not rescue from outside. Saving is release from the belief that outside has authority. Saving is the end of the contract with limitation. Saving is the collapse of the dome's jurisdiction. A potent way to understand dominion without turning it into ego pride is this. Dominion is not control over events. Dominion is immunity from the claim that events define reality. Dominion is the calm that cannot be bribed by outcomes. Dominion is the freedom that does not need permission slips from time. Dominion is not who anything is. Dominion is what is true. So a new direction for today's story can be simple. A person stands before a massive courthouse where every case is being tried at once. Every courtroom argues about blame, fairness, deserving, and punishment. Clerks shout case numbers. Bailiffs slam doors. Lawyers perform certainty. And the whole building vibrates with the belief that judgment is salvation.
Then one quiet figure walks in, carrying no paperwork at all. No defense, no accusation, no evidence, no story. Just a calm recognition that truth does not require litigation. And something unimaginable happens. The noise does not get defeated. It gets rendered irrelevant. Because the figure is not there to win cases. The figure is there with a different law. Not the law of argument, the law of light, the law of sameness, the law of origin, the law that says reality is not decided by debate. That is today's practice in a single breath. Not fixing all the rooms, not winning all the trials, not solving all the equations inside the dome. Simply remembering the jurisdiction of holiness. Simply letting the power of God be available by removing the blocks to awareness of it. Simply repeating until it starts to feel more natural than fear. There is nothing my holiness cannot do.